The 5008 completes Peugeot's wide range of people-carrying MPVs. It's a compact model, rivaling cars like the Vauxhall Zafira or Renault Grand Scenic, but it still offers as much flexible 7-seater space as most families will ever need in a car that's good to drive and feels well built. If you're shopping in this sector, it needs to be on your shortlist. MPV motoring is big business these days, with over 1 million sales a year in the compact sector of the market, where most cars of this kind are sold. Now, though the Americans may have been the ones who first bought us large, bulky, bus-like people carriers, the origins behind the development of less bulky MPVs are undeniably French. Now, Renault generally gets the credit for this, with their Scenic model introduced in the mid-90s, but perhaps it shouldn't. After all, 20 years before that, Gallic rivals Peugeot were selling thousands of their 504 and 505 Familiale estate cars with 3 rows of seats to larger families. Now, no one recognised these cars as groundbreaking or called them compact mini MPVs, but looking back, they perform pretty much the same role that a compact 7-seater people carrier like this Peugeot 5008 does today. But not with the same flexibility, and there's the issue. While PSA Group partner Citroën has cleaned up selling MPVs across Europe over the last decade, Peugeot have done little more than dabble with the market by rebadging a couple of Citroën products. So Citroën's large C8 MPV has become Peugeot's 807, and Citroën's van-based Berlingo Multispace has become Peugeot's partner TP. Nothing though to suit the vast majority of customers shopping in the 5 to 7 seat Vauxhall Zafira or Renault Scenic class. Instead, Peugeot has stuck doggedly to the ethos it began with back in the 70s, that an estate car with 7 seats, like say their 308 SW, is pretty much as good, more affordable to buy and better to drive than a purpose-designed MPV. Now, all of that may be true, but it's not what the market wants, which is why belatedly Peugeot has at last got around to bringing us a unique people carrier all of its own, this 5008. Last to market it may be, but could it be first in your affections? Let's find out. Now, though virtually everything you can actually see about this 5008 is purpose designed by Peugeot, the company would have been pretty silly to ditch the proven underpinnings and engines already developed by PSA Group's stablemate Citroën for its C4 Grand Picasso, nor has it. So it is that this car shares pretty much the same engine range. That means 120 and 150 brake horsepower 1.6 litre petrol engines co-developed with BMW, and a choice of diesels, a 110 brake horsepower 1.6 litre HDI and 150 brake horsepower 2 litre HDI that's capable of rest to 60 in 10 seconds on the way to a top speed of 121 miles an hour. If you think that essentially this means a return to this marque's old MPV strategy of simply rebranding Citroëns, then there's a pleasant surprise in store once you slip behind the wheel. For a start, the cabin is very different. It's maybe less futuristic than the C4 Grand Picasso, but it's of significantly higher quality. More of that later. As importantly, this can be a genuinely rewarding car to drive, certainly more so than any Picasso, giving credence to Peugeot's enjoyed by families, loved by drivers marketing strapline. The dull, lifeless steering that you tend to get not only in the equivalent Citroën but in most other MPVs is replaced by a helm here that enables you to actually feel properly what's going on beneath the wheels, and there's plenty of grip. Also missing is the kind of body roll that you can get in many MPVs. Instead, this taut, high-sided people carrier can actually be hustled through bends just like a Focus or Golf-sized family hatchback. Okay, so the suspension is a little firmer than you might expect to compensate, but it's nothing you couldn't live with. At nearly 2 meters wide, this 5008 is a large vehicle and can feel like it in urban traffic. Still, the restricted front and rear overhangs help when you're manoeuvring, as does the high-set driving position. If you tick the right options boxes, further assistance can be gained through front and rear parking sensors, and even a system that measures roadside parking spaces and gives you an indication of whether your vehicle will fit. On more open roads, upper spec models like this one have a clever heads-up display, which projects speed and other vital information onto a pane of glass that rises in front of the bottom part of the rear screen. The system also incorporates a distance alert function, which measures the difference between you and the car in front and flashes up a warning sign if it thinks you're travelling too close. The 5008 looks wide and low to the road, underlining its slightly sportier approach to the whole business of people carrying. The lines are clean, simple and cohesive. Huge front light clusters sweeping back up the sides of the bonnet, and the front end marked out by a single horizontal strip that bisects the slim front grille and is mirrored by 3 further strips that run across the trio of air intakes just below. The square rear end is designed for practicality first and foremost, with a wide tailgate and a low loading lip. Now, carrying capacity will be a major selling point of the 5008. It's able to take up to 823 litres of capacity, even with 5 of the seats occupied. Fold all the seats down and you can liberate up to 2,506 litres of space. That's the largest carrying capacity in the class, and enjoy a completely flat loading bay. Now, the designers have even allowed for this front passenger seat to fold flat on itself, so that you can carry particularly long items up to a length of 2.76 metres. At the wheel, where the high centre console splits the front seats to create a cockpit effect around the driver, Peugeot has been clever in creating a car that elevates you for a better driving position, yet keeps the steeply angled steering wheel and laid back seating position that you'd get on a conventional hatch. Now, with a large windscreen and deep side windows, it's a particularly light and airy cabin with a total glazed area of 5.77 cubic metres if you opt for the full-length panoramic glass roof that I've got on this particular version. Storage space around the cabin is plentiful, with deep side bins, a glove box and an air-conditioned centre storage well here where you can keep your chocolate and your drinks cool. Most importantly, in the back here, it's all super practical. There are even storage areas in the floor. The 5 seats all fold pretty easily. The middle row here, you've got 3 seats, behind me 2 further ones. In the middle row, all the seats are individual sliding affairs. And you've got nice touches like these picnic trays built into the seat backs here, and the option built into the front seat headrest backs of a multimedia video system to keep the kids quiet on longer journeys. Access to the rearmost 3rd row of seats is aided by one single action movement by which the outer 2nd row seat cushion moves upwards, the seat back slides forward, and passengers can enter by the side door without unseemly clambering. Now, once sat in the very back, legroom can be a problem, but that can be eased if cooperating middle row passengers slide their seats forward using the mechanism that can push the seat back or forward in the middle by up to 130 millimetres. List prices suggest that you'll be paying somewhere in the £17,000 to £24,000 bracket for your 5008, which at first glance makes it look slightly pricier than its Citroën C4 Grand Picasso counterpart, but specifications between the two cars vary, so it's difficult to make direct comparisons. Against other competitors, the pricing suggests that Peugeot's marketeers have done their homework. True, a Renault Grand Scenic will save you about £1,000, but it depreciates quicker and isn't quite as good to drive. A Toyota Verso will hold its value better, but is significantly smaller and only a few £100 cheaper. While Vauxhall Zafira, as far as list prices are concerned anyway, will cost you up to £2,000 more in the entry-level diesel variant that most customers will want. Whether you choose 120 or 156 brake horsepower versions of the 1.6 litre petrol engine, or the HDI diesel, I've got the 110 1.6 litre unit here. There's also a 2 litre HDI 150 engine. Standard equipment levels include most of what you'd expect. So you get air conditioning, front electric windows and nice touches like a hill holder clutch to stop you drifting backwards at uphill junctions. Those who like gear changing done for them have the choice of an EGC robotised semi-automatic system on this HDI 110 model, Or there's a fully fledged automatic on the 2-litre HDI that has engine output boosted to 163 brake horsepower to compensate. Safety-wise, there's ESP stability control on all models to help you on slippery surfaces or if you enter a corner too fast, plus the usual ABS and brake assist features. Now, if all of that doesn't keep you out of the hedge, then there are twin front, side and curtain airbags to cover all 3 rows of passengers. There are also anti-whiplash head restraints for the front and second rows, and the second row seating, all 3 seats get Isofix child seat safety mounting points. The diesel engines do a grand job when it comes to fuel economy. The 1.6 HDI 110 version that most buyers will probably choose manages 53.3 miles to the gallon on the combined cycle and puts out 142 grams per kilometre of CO2. But the star performer is the same engine with, as here, the EGC robotised self-shifting semi-automatic gearbox. Now here I'm getting 55.4 miles to the gallon on the combined cycle and it's putting out just 137 grams per kilometre of CO2. Now compare that to what you get from the petrol version, say the VTI 120 1.6 litre petrol. That gives you 39.8 miles to the gallon on the combined cycle and puts out 169 grams per kilometre of CO2. What else do you need to know? Well, residual values will be slightly below those of Volkswagen and Toyota, but above those of brands like Citroën, Ford and Vauxhall. Servicing costs, well, they should be pretty cheap. Having finally got around to bringing us a proper people carrier of its own, Peugeot has done the job properly with this car. It's an MPV you'll appreciate when you're trying to cram people and packages behind its doors, but also, rather surprisingly, one you'll almost equally enjoy when there's no one aboard but you and you're taking the back route home. The competition's tough, of course, with the compact MPV sector full of more familiar names. That none of them do a better job than this 5008 is impressive, this being Peugeot's first stab at this kind of car. But then, this French brand has never stopped producing cars favoured by families. It's just that with this model finally in its portfolio, it can now serve a lot more of them.